Hello, welcome to Mean Life Studies. In this video, we are going to solve one more problem as part of Python Data Engineer Interview question series. That is question number 5. Write a program to return the list of factorial values up to the given number by using recursive function. Okay, so here we need to write this program by using recursive function. Okay, first you need to understand what is a function. A function is nothing but it's a reusable block of code, right? So what is a recursive function? So recursive function is nothing but a function that we are creating, and then we are going to use the same function inside the same block of code, and that is called as recursive function. For example, you are creating a function, normal function, by using def command, right? This is a user defined function. I'm just giving f of x. Okay, now if x is less than 10, I'm going to return same x value, else I'm going to return something different value, x square. Okay, so this is normal user defined function we are using, right? So now after that, what we have to do, we have to call this function. You can see here f of 3, that's returning 3 only, because of it's going to execution of all this code, right? So whatever the code that we have written under this function, it's executing. So now if I use here 11, that's going to return 11 square, because of it started executing this one. Whenever you call this function, this will start execution of all this code, right, inside this code block, right? Now you can see it will return 11 square, that is 121, because of this condition is failed and this is entering this one. So now this function returns this value, right? So now what is a recursive function? So rather writing here, I'm just using x plus, I'm calling the same function. Now you can see f of x minus 1. Okay, so now f of something. So this is the same function we are using inside the same code block, right? So now you can see if I execute this one, f of 11, it's returning 30. Why is it returning 30 here? So whenever you call the function f of 11, it's going to check this condition first. It's failing, right? So after that, it's entering to return x plus f of x minus 1. That means x, what is the x value? That is 11, right? So after that, f of 11 minus 1, that is f of 10 only. Na? So this is f of 10. So again, you are calling this, right? So f of 10 again is starting from, execution will start from the beginning, right? So now it's going to check this condition. This is also failed, and then this will return, right? So what is this again? This will return 10 plus f of 10 minus 1, that is 9, right? So again, what is this value? This is the same function you are calling again, right? So again, the code block will start execution from the beginning. So this condition will true, right? So that's how this will return 9. Okay, so now the total value, how much? That is 30 only, right? So that is how it's returning 30. So now recursive in the sense we are using the same function inside the same code block, and that is called as recursive function. Okay, so let's write this program now. So write program to return list of factorial values. So here we need to return list of factorial values. Okay, first you need to understand how we can write a program, using the recursive function only to return factorial value. Okay, I'm just using define factorial value of x. Okay, so now, so if x value is equals to 0, or x value either 1, we'll be getting only 0 factorial, or 1 factorial will be only 1, right? So you have to return 1 value, right? So after that, else we are going to return x value multiplication with, so whatever here, we are going to calling the same function again. So that's why we are using f factorial of, the same function we are calling it, right? So now you can see here using x minus 1. So now if you observe, what is the factorial of 3? 3 factorial value is equal to 3 into 3 minus 1 factorial only, na? 3 minus 1 factorial, right? So even if you consider any other factorial value also, for example, 5 factorial, what is the 5 factorial value? 5 into, and then 5 minus 1 factorial only, right? Right. So the same logic I'm using. So here, fact of x minus 1, it's returning the one lesser, x minus 1 factorial value, right? So that is how I'm writing like this condition. Okay. And if you observe, the same function we are using inside the same code block, right? Inside this function only. Na? So now you can see we have created a function that is fact of 1 that will act as recursive function. Now I'm just calling it fact of 4. You can see here, it's returning 24. So whatever number you can mention, 5, you can see 120. So this is just returning factorial value of a given number, that is x, right? It is not returning list of factorial values up to the given number, right? So how we can return that? So you can write one more function. I'm just writing define list factorial values of n. Okay, we have to write, we have to return up to the given number n, right? So all factorial values we have to return. So that's why I'm just using this entire code block inside this function. Okay, right? So now we are creating a function, and then we are using the recursive function inside it. So because of we are creating this factorial and we are calling it, right? So now we have to return list of factorial, right? So now for that, I'm just returning answer equal to list, empty list. Okay, and finally, I'm just, okay, even if you don't want, you can also use list comprehension technique that we have discussed in last video, right? So you can directly return list. In that list, we are calling the same function we created inside this function, that is this one. Okay, so I'm just creating fact of I, we are calling that one for I in range of, what is that given number, right? So that is 1 comma n plus 1. So what that means, so this factorial value, like factor of I, is nothing but a function that we created. That is a recursive function, right? So whenever we are returning, whenever we are trying to return this function, this will enter into this function and these lines of code will start executing. Okay, now you can see executed. Now you can see it's returning only factor of 5 is returning only 120. So why it is returning only 120 here? Because we created, we are calling only factorial of x, right? So that's why it's returning that one. Now what we have to do, so we have to call this function, right? That is list underscore fact. So now I'm just calling list underscore fact of 5. So now you can see here, it's going to return list of factorial values up to 5 given number. So 1 factorial, 2, 3, 4 and 5, right? So we have to call with the help of this function, right? So if you are calling this function, this entire lines of code block will executing, right? So now you can see when you are calling this function of 5, it will start execution like this. You can see factorial, you are creating a recursive function inside this function and all lines will start executing, right? So now when you are returning, when you are trying to return a function value, that is this one, it's again going back to this function, right? Now you can see, so even if you want to have any number, you can mention 10. You can see now it's returning all list of factorial values up to the given number, that is 10, right? I hope you understand.